I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm asking you to grab a furry friend, sit down with your puppos, and relax as I reveal my personal top 10 doggos in Soulsborne. My soon-to-be roommate suggested this topic, and because I don't want to become a no longer a roommate, this one's for you. You know who you are, I see you eating lunch. In all seriousness, this video is coming at a weird time. We recently had to say goodbye to another good girl, Bianca, who lived to the ripe old age of 14, so I'm considering this video a tribute to her as well. But enough with the sappiness. Today's topic is about all things doggos. Bosses, NPCs, enemies, lore characters. If there's a doggo, it was considered. With only 10 spots though, I no doubt will miss a few of the goodest pups, so be sure to let me know your favourite Soulsborne doggos down below. Without further ado, my top 10 doggos in Soulsborne, ranked. Coming in at number 10, we have what I'd consider to be the most low-key wolf on this list, but one that certainly deserves a mention, and not just because my future roommate suggested them. In Elden Ring, upon completing the Lakeside Crystal Cave, you find the young Albinoric Latenna. She's safe from the purge of her village, and should you have a piece of the Haligtree medallion from Albus, she'll be convinced to travel with you as a spirit ash. And yet beside her lies the corpse of her faithful wolf, Lobo. Albinorics cannot use their legs, unable to walk, and as such, many of them ride on the backs of wolves to move around, such is the case for Latenna, who in her attempt to escape, rode atop Lobo's back. You can see how it ended up, Lobo dead, and Latenna in mourning, before finding her purpose with the Tarnished and leaving her faithful companion behind. There's no grand gameplay for Lobo, just a few passing lines of dialogue from Latenna, and yet the wolf made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure their other half's safety. And this resonated with many players out there. Upon the quest's end, Latenna even asks after the fighting is done to lay her ashes to rest beside Lobo, her dear wolf. I just find this entire quest very poignant and well worth the mention. Another low-key doggo in the grand scheme of things. At number 9, we have the Watchdog of the Old Lords from Bloodborne, an optional boss found within the Chalice dungeons should you choose to attempt them. I will be doing a video on all the Chalice dungeon bosses later in the year, but from my memories of my playthrough I did to reach Queen Yharnam, I found the Watchdog of the Old Lords to be one of the tougher fights in the game. He possesses a strong amount of HP, and the damage he deals is higher than the average, leading to a battle that can catch players off guard coming from the main game. While his initial encounter on Layer 3 of the Thumerian Chalice is a nice introduction to the world of these dungeons, it's the encounter on Layer 2 of the Defiled Chalice that stays in the memories of those who attempted it. See, the Defiled Chalice halves your character's HP, meaning you can take less hits while all the enemies are still scaled to that high difficulty. Combine that with the Watchdog of the Old Lords and his penchant for high damage and high aggression, and you've got one heck of a fight that I am not looking forward to reattempting for my Chalice bosses video. For having an awesome design and 2 memorable encounters, this is the main Bloodborne doggo I wanted to include. I considered the werewolves from Central Yharnam for their memorability and ability to demolish new players, or maybe even Vicar Amelia, but she's more reindeer than doggo, I'm afraid. The Chalice dungeons need more focus placed on them by the wider community, and hopefully this entry helps. At number 8, we're back to Elden Ring with Miriel, Pastor of Vows. Perhaps the most useful doggo ally in Elden Ring, Miriel resides over the Church of Vows and acts as its custodian. Look at his cute little hat, we all love Miriel, don't we? This NPC is very helpful as he can take any sorcery scroll or incantation prayer books, becoming a prime vendor as you venture further into the game. Sure, you can give those items to other NPCs, but they'll often move about the map, and it's helpful to have a friendly face you can come back to no matter what instead. Of course, he also spills the tea on Lord Radagon and Lady Renala, ever the Maruja on their past relationship. You just know he was tweeting, "Leave Renala alone," when Radagon broke off their marriage. He also provides a hint to Radagon and Marika's true nature, referencing the large statue in Lanedell that progresses Brother Corrin's questline. There's not really much else to say. He's got an adorable Pope hat and clearly looks like a doggo that enjoys a pet or two. Not my favorite Elden Ring dog by a mile, but certainly the one with the most charm. I feel for anyone that warped to the Church of Vows from Raya Lucaria vying the Sending Gate only to not have a way back, though. Couldn't be me in my original playthrough, haha. Speaking of Raya Lucaria, coming at number 7, we have the Red Wolf of Radagon. This is a boss found in the debate parlor and uses a wide variety of physical lunging attacks, bites, and glintstone sorceries. I've always described the Red Wolf as a glass cannon, not a lot of HP, but has the mobility to avoid hard-hitting attacks, and the damage output to decimate early game builds, which is when you're most likely to visit Raya Lucaria. I think the flaming red design is gorgeous, and it's fun having a magic-based battle with something other than a mage. It's a doggo, one who protects Renala on behalf of their master Radagon. But the main reason the Red Wolf doesn't rank any higher on this list is purely because there are multiple Red Wolves throughout the game, and in my opinion, every subsequent appearance made me hate this enemy more and more. The one behind Caria Manor drove me wild, as you have to fight this hectic, fast-paced moveset alongside a bunch of smaller wolves. Same goes for the one in Nokron, as you want to catch it without its entourage to have any opportunity of winning, and the one at the bottom of Mount Gelmir's Hero's Grave was doomed from the start because that's one of the worst dungeons in the game, so whatever boss lay at the bottom was going to get brought down by proxy. I think this fight works best in small, enclosed arenas, definitely not in open spaces. We have a very cool character with a very cool fight, brought down by Elden Ring's mishandling of reusing legacy dungeon bosses throughout the overworld. What a shame. Wait a second, this isn't Soulsborne. I'm hitting you with a 1-2 blindside as I insert a little bit of Lies of P in the mix, as there are two characters that definitely fit the mold of Doggo, and one cannot exist without the other. I am of course talking about Alidoro and rookie explorer Hugo. Alidoro is your boss soul merchant. You can buy special weapons and amulets from his store after meeting him in the cathedral, and he'll stick to Hotel Krat until you reach the Barren Swamp, upon which he'll relocate and wait for you to take down the area boss so he can collect more treasure for his hoard. He's an opportunist, a man who stole the title of Alidoro, and most importantly, he's got a German Shepherd mask. But the actual entry on this list is rookie explorer Hugo, a precious baby who must be protected at all costs. He's found at the end of the Barren Swamp in a homemade mask made to look like Alidoro's, as he is his biggest fan. And he ends up giving you all the information you need to figure out Alidoro's true identity as a fake. Hugo is up for adventure, and I suspect he may have some use with the upcoming DLC, as he was recently featured on the Lies of P Twitter account. Towards the end of the game, if you kill Alidoro in the Relic of Trismegistus, as you should if you want to progress Eugenie's questline, Hugo will pick up his gear and then take his spot in Hotel Krat. He's just a good boy who wants to sell you nice boss weapons and go on adventures. And with his idol slain, he has to find a new meaning. He's a very pure NPC and provides what I feel is a satisfying ending to the Alidoro questline, and was worth the mention on this list. Should I start including Lies of P in general in these videos? I am so tempted, you have no idea. It gives me so much more to work with. It's a new year, new me, but we're still trying to reach 20,000 subscribers by the summer of 2024, and I know we can do it. Just look at how many of you aren't subscribed yet. Let's rectify that. Be sure to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my future content. Back to the video. Okay, so I lied when I said I was done with Bloodborne earlier on this list, and while I'm still not including any werewolves, my roommate and his amigos will be devastated by this decision, I want to focus on what might be some of my favourite enemies in Bloodborne from a conceptual standpoint. Throughout the game, you're introduced to two very distinct basic enemies. Crows, which sound more like dogs when they attack, who lay on the ground and flail at you when you get close, and dogs, which are your classic Soulsborne doggos, irritating to fight, very fast, and appearing out of nowhere. But towards the end of the game, within the Nightmare of Mensis, these creatures reappear in a truly horrific fashion. I'm of course talking about the Dogger Crows and the Crow Dogs. Whether it's a dog's head on a crow's body or a crow's head on a dog's body, it is just wrong, and that's why I love it. Towards the end of the game, Bloodborne just says fuck it to conventional rules and messes up some of its monster designs in a way they knew would make players uncomfortable. Take the gigantic pigs later in the level overflowing with eyes, or the sudden appearance of the shadows of Yharnam as regular enemies. However, it's the crow dogs and dog crows that garner the strongest reaction, and I'll say one of my favourite things when watching a blind Bloodborne playthrough is to skip to these specific beastly doggos to see the person's reaction. You never forget your first time. Hopping back to Elden Ring, not our last entry in this game, but at number 4, we have Blythe, the half-wolf. I'm sure many were expecting him to be a top 3 finisher, but this is my list and I've got a few personal preferences. But far be it from me to deny the Wolfman his dues. After all, his dulcet Welsh accent and towering height are enough to make any bottom swoon. And he also appeals to the furries, which is like 90% of tech support online. Blythe is a tragic figure, a servant of Ranni, gifted by the Two Fingers, her loyal companion, who helps her to find the lost city of Nokron, but is also a ticking time bomb. So we work with him across the game, taking out Darrowil and the Bloodhound Everjail, searching Shifra Rither with him after swearing allegiance to Ranni, and best of all getting to fight alongside him in the Radahn Festival against the Star Scourge himself. He feels like one of the few characters in the game who really gets the player, their love of fighting, and in any other circumstance I could see him being a tarnished of his own. Yet tragically, Blythe's ending is one of sadness, for the Two Fingers are able to compel their shadows like Blythe to go against their masters if they oppose the greater will. And such is why E.G. locks Blythe in an Everjail, and afterwards, why Blythe loses his sanity in your final encounter. With so many corpses of Black Knife assassins scattered about when you find him, it's implied that Blythe actually was winning the battle in his mind against the greater will and stayed loyal to Ranni till the very end. But upon your encounter outside Ranni's Rise, it's too much for him and you're forced to put him to sleep. I wish there was a way for Blythe to have his happy ending while also allowing Ranni to ascend to the Elden Ring, as it's my preferred ending to the game, but it isn't meant to be. Still, I give full props to From Software for designing an NPC you're designed to get attached to, a friendly wolf with a heart of gold that eventually turns sour. Taking our bronze medal in today's video, we have a debatable entry, as my criteria is simple. When we encounter a creature, if they're doggo in form, nature, or power, I'll include them as a candidate for this list. That doesn't mean the creatures had to be born as doggos. So with that loophole, Vort of the Boreal Valley, take the stage. You really didn't expect me to make a video about Soulsborne doggos without including the watchdog whose boss music has been memeified to Kingdom Come, did you? Any excuse I have to chuck Vort into a topic, I will take. The perfect second boss, Vort is your classic quadrupedal beast in the same vein as those bloodborne werewolves. And like most bosses, sticking to his booty and dodging to the left and right will actually win you the day. I love Vort less for his fight, which is a great tutorial but not particularly challenging, and more for the design and the ambiance. His music, as said, is one of my favourite tracks from Dark Souls 3. The moment he enrages and goes berserk lives rent-free in my mind. I always think of that one meme of the child playing chess, and then they bring out a grand master player and he just starts crying. Vort's design also appeals to me with the ice-cold bestial metallics, the gigantic mace, and the frost emanating from his body. The way he lumbers towards you, but then begins rushing like a mad bull, ugh. This is a biased pick, but he's one of the best doggos around, even if he started out as a human and was gifted his doggo-ness by the Pontiff. There's an audience out there for that werewolf-esque transformation. I'm repping for you guys right now. When it came down to it though, there were only 2 Soulsborne doggos in contention for the spot of the best. And coming in at number 2, it is one of the newest, Maliketh the Black Blade. Marika's shadow, gifted to her by the Two Fingers, Maliketh played an instrumental part in the forming of the Golden Order, as Marika ordered him to seal away the rune of destined death within his blade. And yet that was not enough. Rani orchestrated the stealing of a fragment of the Rune of Death, forcing Malekith to seal the rune within his own flesh so it may never be stolen again. The damage, however, was done, and Malekith now spends his days tracking down the death root that crops up from the corpse of Godwyn, the first demigod to die, slain by knives carved via the very rune he was told to seal. He's tragic in that he's constantly atoning for his sins, with you helping him as Garank, the Beast Clergyman, throughout the game. It's not until you need to obtain the Rune of Destined Death to burn away the vines protecting the Erd Tree that you come into conflict with Malekith, traveling to crumbling Farum Azula. His fight is one of the best in the game, and his moveset is fast, furious, and my favorite word, frenetic. The power of Destined Death to sap away the HP of those he attacks with his blade is terrifying indeed, and yet his health pool is fairly minimal, making him a glass cannon who can easily 1 or 2 shot the player, but also being fairly easy to stun with the Blasphemous Claw if you time it right. I personally like that Malekith may be this important lore figure, but he's also a character you interact with in the game. Appearing to take his rune after completing the Deathroot questline is genuinely the ultimate form of betrayal. You can hear in his voice how devastated he is by this revelation that the Tarnished who helped him is the one who will slay him, forced to protect the rune for a goddess who ultimately, in my opinion, doesn't care for him the way he's designed to care for her. Marika used Malekith in such a toxic way that defeating him and allowing him to pass on feels more like a mercy killing. He no longer has to bear the hunger of Deathroot, the pain of his sins. He can be free from all that, while the Tarnished goes on to change the world for better, or potentially for worse. Also, his design is sick, his phase 2 cutscene is epic, his voice is gravelly in the best way, and let's be real, this man is also prime furry bait. But nobody was beating the #1 doggo in Soulsborne, it's Great Grey Wolf Sif. Anyone familiar with my channel knows just how much I adore the lore of Artorias, and with that comes the lore of Sif intertwined with their master. For Sif is Artorias' wolf companion. Through thick and thin, they beat back the Abyss, but their story ends in tragedy. Artorias and Sif ventured to the Abyss in Ulasil, but Artorias, recognizing the danger, protected his companion, using his great shield to create a barrier of light. This allows us to rescue Sif when we venture into the chasm ourselves, and allows us to summon Sif to fight alongside us against Manus as a way of honoring their fallen master. Of course though, Sif's story doesn't end there. They take the mantle as the guardian of Artorias' grave and the Ulasil sanctuary, and for many years they grew larger, defended against more invaders, those who would take the Covenant of Artorias for themselves until the arena is filled to the brim with swords. As Sif didn't want to see more bloodshed, more people falling to the allure of the Abyss, and yet the Chosen Undead needs that ring to take on the 4 kings and complete their journey, pitting us against the wolf themselves. The default fight is sad. The post-DLC fight is heartbreaking, and what I personally consider to be canon. Sif recognizes the player, realizes this is the savior from all those years ago, but still opts to stop them from wading back into the Abyss, not wanting to lose another master. The fight begins, you don't want to do this, the music is heartbreaking and melancholic. Sif can use Artorias' blade and his moveset with surprising skill, but it's not enough, it was never enough. You get the wolf to its last leg of health and watch as they limp towards you, and you put them out of their misery. Their watch finally ending as you go on to slay the 4 kings and survive the Abyss. Sif is just a good doggo, not a hard fight, and has a fairly generic wolf design, but everything surrounding the lore, the music, the arena, it all culminates in one of the most memorable sequences in Soulsborne, and is a story that any Souls fan is aware of. A good doggo who fully deserves the top spot, and let's be real, my nostalgia for a good classic story like this is never going to dull. And that's my list. Which Soulsborne doggos are your favorite, and which ones did I miss? Leave them down below, and be sure to parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future content. Videos might be a little hectic, I'm actually moving this month, so who knows if there'll be a video next week, fingers crossed. My socials are on screen now. Feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I recommend my Twitter, my Blue Sky, or my Discord. I'm semi-active on all of them. Social media isn't my forte, but I do leave updates when I can. A massive shout out to my patrons on Patreon for supporting me for another month. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys next time for another video. Adios.